Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Clouds. They're something that most of us see regularly. They're floating up in the sky. They've all got different shapes, sizes, even colours, haven't they? Now, one of the things that I would like to know, actually, how much does a cloud weigh? With that weight, how can it stay aloft? Let's start by looking at what is a cloud. The definition, it does seem a little bit wordy. A cloud is an aerosol consisting of a visible mass of miniature liquid droplets, frozen crystals, or other particles suspended in the atmosphere of a planetary body or similar space. As I say, bit wordy. On Earth, clouds they form when the air is cooled down to its dew point, and the air then becomes saturated with water. The study of clouds is called nymphology. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. And this is part of a greater scientific area called meteorology. The word cloud, it comes from the Old English word clud or clod, and that means hill or mass of stone. The word came about in the 13th century due to rain clouds. Well, they actually looked like a mass of rock. Aristotle, in 340 BC, summed up the knowledge of natural science relating to weather and climate in his publication Meteorologica. In this, the precipitation and the clouds that it came from, they became known as meteors, and that itself came from the Greek word meteoros, which means high in the sky. It's also where the word meteorological is derived from. Meteorologica, it was based mainly on intuition and observation, not really any scientific process. But it is the first known attempt to try and approach the subject of weather in a systematic manner. The first scientific studies, they were carried out by Luke Howard in England and Jean-Baptiste Lamarck in France. Howard formally classified topographic level clouds in 1802. And they were named using Latin terms. He believed that by studying the clouds, it would be possible to use this knowledge in weather forecasting. Lamarck was also working on a naming convention in 1802, but this ended up not being widely adopted at the time. The International Meteorological Conference formally adopted an extended version of Howard's naming system in 1891. In the late 19th century, clouds were discovered above the troposphere, and it's this that led to the reintroduction of Lamarck's naming convention for these clouds. As I've already said, clouds they form when the air becomes saturated with water as the temperature reaches the dew point. The main mechanism for this is called adiabatic cooling. Here, a parcel of air that contains invisible water vapour, it rises through the atmosphere. As it rises, the temperature cools and the water it condenses into cloud drops. This condensation it occurs around a nucleation centre such as a salt or even a dust particle that are also rising in the air. The main cause of this air movement is solar heating. This is where the air above the surface is warmed by the sun. It reduces the density of that warmer air, and that allows it to rise up into the atmosphere. As the cloud rises and cools further, the water droplets, they continue to grow and to combine into larger droplets. And once they become too large, they fall as rain. So back to my original question. How much does a cloud weigh? Well, air has weight. We call that air pressure. At sea level, this is 1 kilogram per square metre. Because air has weight, that means it's also got a density, and that density is just the weight for a specific volume, and in our case, the volume is per cubic metre. As we've seen, clouds are made up of water particles, so it has a weight and it has a volume. The weight of a cloud depends on how you define it. The one we're going to use is that the weight is that of water droplets contained in the cloud. The other definition also takes into account the weight of the air above the cloud. The estimated density for a cumulus cloud is 0.5 grams per cubic metre. A 1 cubic kilometre cloud contains 1 billion cubic metres. So that means that the cloud would weigh 500 million grams, or 5,000 kilograms, or 1.1 million pounds. The density of a cloud is less than the density of air, and that's why they float in the air. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, this number that we've come up with, this 500,000 kilograms, that quite amazes me. It's a lot heavier than I would have expected. I don't know. I don't know why, but I got convinced that it must be a lot lighter. And bear in mind as well, for our example, we've just looked at a small cloud. You know, some of the clouds that we see up in the atmosphere, they're many kilometres in size. Really enjoyed this one. It's one of those little ones, it niggles at the back of my mind. It's something I've always really wanted to know. So glad I spent the time to really dig into this. Are there any questions that you'd like me to talk about? Anything you'd like me to tackle? Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.